What's up, y'all? Welcome to episode 20 of the JRNE Podcast with me, Jada Christine. Today we have a special guest. His name is Jerome Banks. He goes to my church and we're going to be talking about purpose. We're going to deep dive into purpose. That's his specialty. And I'm so excited to hear what he has to say. I'm always so excited to hear what everybody has to say when they come on. And I also want to say thank you guys so much for 600 subscribers on YouTube. And shout out to you if you've been coming from TikTok, because a lot of y'all have been coming from TikTok and I'm so grateful for that. I also wanted to say, if you haven't noticed, I started doing vlogs on this channel. There's 2 vlogs up right now, or maybe there'll be 3 by the time you see this. I'm not sure exactly what the dates are. I'm very tired right now. But if you're interested in looking at the vlogs, those are on my channel. Let me know what you think about those as well. Yeah, so if you like what you hear, please share it with a friend. Subscribe to the YouTube, like, comment, do everything you gotta do. Repost it on your stories, get the word out there, and I hope you enjoy. Okay, so before we start this conversation on purpose, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your testimony on how you came to Christ?
Ooh, questions already. All right. A little bit about myself. First off, I am a man of God. I am a son of God. 36-year-old. I have 2 kids. Work for CDCR. Love sports. Love competing. Love talking a little trash. And just I'm a student for the word, and just have a passion to help young men and just young people in general. And I believe that my life has been a lot of hard lessons. Becoming a parent in high school, senior year, I was a father, and so I had to really jump in and start to mature. So my testimony of me coming to Christ, my mom raised us in church. So I have 6 siblings. With my mom, my dad has a whole bunch of kids, so I don't even know the count. But there's 6 of us with my mom, so I am the second to youngest. And my mom found Christ. We used to live in Los Angeles when I was younger, and so she took us to church. So we started young, and then we moved from LA mid-90s, just very gang infested. And she wanted to do some things to my pops because he wasn't treating her right. And so she wanted to also give us a chance at life, family members and friends, getting killed and getting locked up. And I can remember, sometimes the little neighborhood gangs, because there were so many of us, they're waiting at our house when we get out of school. And so we moved. And when we made that transition, that church home that we had, that foundation, we were going back, but it just became a lot. So as I got older into my teens, and we were at church from 8 o'clock in the morning to 2. And, as a kid, that just felt like forever. And it's crazy because when I ask her now, why were we there for so long? I didn't know, we used to eat there. It was that type of church where you had service. Then after that, everybody stayed around the fellowship. There was food. And so I didn't know part of the reason for that was my dad was not helping her. And so we were eating at the church also. And so that was intentional. And so as a teenager, I would come up with every excuse not to go to church. I ain't got clothes. I ain't got this. I ain't got that. And so, after so much tug of war, she'd just be like, you know what? I'm out. I'm going. And so I thank her for that, because the seeds were planted. If we think about what the word says, train a child up in a way that they should go, that when they're older, they will not depart. And so when I got older, I have my son's 18, my daughter's 15. And I was following some of the same wrong footsteps that my father did, even though I did not see him do it. And, my children, 2 different mothers. And I said, I wanted to give one of them well, both of them, what I didn't have. And so, I was trying to talk to my son's mom first, but she was like, I ain't fooling with you. I know what you're going to do. You're going to mess around with me and leave me alone. So she was like, nope, not having it. And so me and my daughter's mom, we were, trying to talk and rekindle something. And, we had these plans. And so I verbalized these things of wanting to do the right thing, but I was not ready. And so I messed around, did some disrespectful things to her. And I remember I left her house and she had texted me about it, and so I told her. And so the next day she brought me my daughter and she was so mad at me. I mean, her face was just scrounged up. She wouldn't even look at me. And, I was just like, oh man, you messed up. And so I was at my buddy's house and him and our daughters were playing. I was just sitting in the chair and literally the Holy Spirit spoke to me and said, if you don't change, then these things will happen to your daughter. And I just broke down in tears. And that was the turning point for me. And from there became a faithful man, a man to only one woman, not many. But that was where God began. It was interesting. I remember a buddy of mine, when he met my daughter, he said, man, she's going to soften you. And so that kind of came back. I believe that God used that situation to soften my heart and really speak to me. And so that was the transition for me. 2016, I was introduced to At the Cross. And I've been there ever since. Our pastor ordained me minister just a few months ago before we left the building on Atlanta. And so it's been a journey. It's been a journey, and there's so much to come.
Beautiful. I love that. I didn't know any of that.
A lot, right?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So how would you define purpose in general? And what's the difference, if there is one, between a purpose and a calling?
So I'm going to answer the first question is, how do I define it? Purpose is an answer or a solution to a problem. And so if you look at even this app that we're using, someone seen a need, it created something. That is what purpose is. And so we all have a purpose, and the only way you can find out what that is you got to get in relationship with the one who created you. The Bible says that we were all intended for work, and when I learned my purpose, it revolutionized my life. It changed everything for me. I tell people this way, or I ask them this question: what's that thing that has a handle and metal on the end and you hit nails with it? A hammer. Most people answer a hammer. And so I told you purpose and you told me identity. So when we get our purpose, then we also get our identity. And so when I got that, I began to filter everything through it. Who I hung out with, who I did relationships with, where I am is in my work life, everything I filter through that, because wherever purpose is misunderstood, abuse is inevitable. If you see somebody misusing something, it's because they don't have an understanding of what it is, and that happens to us often as people. People will abuse us or misuse us because they truly don't see who we are. And so if you know who you are, then you can navigate through some of that stuff and hopefully minimize putting yourself in situations to the abuse.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Um, so would you say there's a difference between purpose and calling?
Absolutely. Um,
Okay.
Calling is you have there's a pull. Your pull, you gravitate to this. And so one of my callings is the drums,
Mm-hmm.
the praise team. When I was maybe 10 or younger, and we lived in LA, we used to play church, me and my siblings. And our pastor, God rest his soul, Pastor Tillman, he was like Southern Baptist, so he would take these big gasps of air before, while he's speaking. So and for kids it was funny. Kind of like I think it's Bishop Noah Jones, he preaches like that. And so
Uh-huh.
all of my siblings would want to make fun, they would want to be the pastor. And I would set up
Uh-huh.
my mom's pots and pans like a drum set. And I would take spoons and I would play the drums. And so I remember one time we left, when we had left LA, we went back. And I never had owned a complete drum set. I had a 3-piece that I used to kick the bass drum with my foot. I didn't even have a drum throne. I had a pair of sticks, a snare, a bass drum, and a rack tom. That was it. And we went back to church, and the pastor had left and went back home, back to the South. And so a lot of the musicians were his children, his family. So they left with him. And so one of the I don't know if she was a deacon in a church or what she was, but she was a leader. Her daughter was playing, but she couldn't keep a beat. And so I'm sitting there, and this is as a kid, and I didn't know at the time, but I hear a voice speaking to me that's telling me to get up and go play. And so I'm just sitting there and get up and go play. And so eventually I did. I got up and I walked up the steps, and she turned to me and just handed me the sticks. And I sat behind a whole kit, and I was able to play. I remember the organ player was the only thing she was telling me was slow down, but I could play. And so from there in my life, if I walk into a church, I'm called to the drums. There's just a gravitational pull for me, and I have that even with men. I remember we were on the call, and your dad was speaking. There was an older man on the call that reminded him of his father, and it brought him to tears. Well, that brought me to tears. Someone who grew up without their father, I have a heart for men, and so I can feel the pain and passion of men. I have a pull for it. So even in church, where I see there's a need uh, for men, because we know church is predominantly filled with women. There's more women in there than men. And sometimes I feel like the men are left out. There was a lot that I had to learn, and I'm like, man, we just chop liver. And so I get agitated. And that's the spiritual agitation. We see Paul gets the same thing in Acts. And that agitation is because I have a calling there. That's why it bothers me. It may not bother this other man, but it bothers me because I'm called to it. And so there is a difference between calling and purpose.
Okay. Okay. So I guess you kind of said this in the last question, but how did you discover your purpose and God's plan for your life?
So how did I discover my purpose and God's plan for my life? There was a season that I was in, and it was the wilderness. Uh, some of the church family knows, some don't. I was engaged 20 the end of 2019, Um, the young lady I was dating, I was ready to turn the page. And so I proposed. I prayed on it and believed it was the right thing to do. And when I made that decision, it took me 40 days to buy the ring. I had it made. And I got a revelation down the line. I started counting days. I had got the ring back in 40 days. And so I literally ran home and I'm like 40-40. Like Jesus fasted 40 days and 40 nights. The Israelites were in the wilderness for 40 years. And so I started looking into what is the number of the 40 represents. And it's the wilderness. And I learned it was a place that God, I believe, divinely placed me there to mature me. And so in that season of dealing with heartbreak, things just not working out in my life, I said, okay, I'm done trying it my way. I commit 100% to doing it God's way. And so I was in my word faithfully. I prayed more than I ever prayed. I didn't want to feel the pain, the heartbreak. I didn't want it anymore. And so I was seeking Him faithfully, diligently, intentionally, and I was asleep. I was sleeping. I remember being woken up. And one thing I had learned to do when being woken up randomly before my alarm clock is I remember Samuel being woken up. And so I began to recite that, speak, Lord, your servant is listening. And so I was woken up one morning and God began to minister to me about because I also do mechanics. He was using a vehicle that I had worked on, and he was ministering that message to me of the closer that I get to Him, He would fix things in me. And told me that you are going to pastor, you're going to preach. And I just remember being in tears, and I'm like, Lord, I'm just trying to sleep. I'm just trying to sleep. And so, of course, I believe, like most of us do, I had that Moses moment where I woke up and like, this is surreal. Like, I'm gonna do what? I'm just cool with being the drummer boy. I ain't never have no desire to pastor, to preach, or any of that. And so I'm just, I really just meditated on it. And there was a mentor in my life, and I said, hey man, I believe I got a revelation. And this is what God told me. And he goes, I can see that. I said, okay. And I shared it with someone else, another believer, and they said, I can see that. But I was the one who really had to believe it. And so I began to believe it and walk in it. And that's how we got there. It was through, I won't say through heartbreak and pain, but I believe that kick-started my journey. When I look at the other thing that I did was the world continuously redefines what manhood is. And so I said, God, I want to know what biblical manhood is. I believe you are the creator of everything. And so if again we're talking about purpose, it can only come from the one who created. And so I was led to Genesis, and if you look at everything that happened before Eve was on the scene, Adam had purpose. Is that God had created everything, and on the seventh day He rested, and He caused no rain to fall on the earth. It said nothing grew because there was no man to manage it. And so He seen a need, and He said, so then He drew in the dust and formed man. So that's purpose right there. I'm not going to cause it anything to grow because there's no one to manage it. There's no one to till the ground. So I need to create this thing. I need to create this solution to that need. And so men were created, mankind. And so, it's you got to get close with God. And I can honestly say that fulfillment that I got and have from knowing purpose and walking in it. There's no woman, there's no job, there's no car, no possession or anything material. Nothing can give you that satisfaction that fulfillment gives you.
Yeah. Okay. So for you, what does it mean to be walking in purpose daily? What does that look like?
The first word that comes to mind for me is intentionality. We're talking about walking in something daily. I think about what Paul told to his apprentice Timothy. He said to stir up the gift of God, to fan it into flame. And that is for us to do. That's walking in purpose. Timothy was a young minister, very young. And so he had Paul encouraging him to walk in this thing. I think in 2 Timothy verse 4, he's even telling them, don't let nobody despise you because you're young. Yeah.
Being young.
And if you want to not flip that word, but use a synonym, he said, don't let nobody disrespect you because you're young. Be an example in your love and your purity. And so walking in it daily takes intentionality, stewarding that gift, fanning that gift in the flame in your word, spending time in your word, spending time in God, working on that thing that you've been given to do. And so I believe, walking in purpose, that is our mission. That's whatever it is that you're here to do it daily. Work at it every day. I'm in my last year of Bible college. That's a part of me walking in my purpose. I'm preparing. I'm not on stage preaching every Sunday. I'm not there yet. But I can still walk in purpose without that platform, and it's that daily grind. We gotta put the work in. And it's a law of the Bible. We talk about sowing and reaping. That's a law. That's a law of reciprocity. Another way we say it is, you get out what you put in, right? Mm-hmm. So I believe that we can take that principle and apply it to walking in purpose, sowing into it every day.
Well, that's all the questions I have. Is there any final thoughts you want to share?
I would just encourage everyone, especially the young. If I could have, like I said, I'm 36. If I could have gotten this even earlier, I could only imagine how things would be different for me. Because that the identity part, I think we're living in a day and an age where there's a lot of identity crisis. And people are reaching and grabbing for any and everything except for God. He created you. So how can someone else give you your identity? And so there is a connection with purpose in it. And I apply to everything, dating, every area of my life. And so I hope it's something that everyone experiences. I hope everyone pursues it, and just really see how it changes your life. It really is life changing. And so I believe you are operating in purpose. This is awesome. I am excited for you. I applaud you and commend you. It takes courage and boldness to do this, and I salute you. And I hope for nothing but the best.
I appreciate that. Okay, so is there do you have any social media links you want to leave with anybody watching to get in contact with you if they have questions or just to follow your journey?
I do. I do have a podcast, as I mentioned to you, that I'm starting, and it is Renovate Life. Podcast. Life, L-O-I-F-E, like Life Jennings, if you guys know who he is.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, follow my journey as I start, and yeah, I just wanted to share my journey in my life with everyone, and be a blessing to the young folks.
Okay. That's all I have today. Thank y'all so much for listening to that episode. It was a good one. Let's continue this conversation in the comments or in the DMs on Instagram. Let me know what you think down below. What do you think about purpose? Have you found your purpose? If you enjoyed the episode, share it. Follow me on TikTok at jada.christine. Follow the podcast on Instagram at the JRNE Podcast. All the details, all the social media details are in the description below. Please come back, please spin back, come see me or listen to me again, and look at the previous episodes because they are good too. And have a blessed day.